This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag. Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag is Baton Rouge's longest running and best television show. Who would have believed that?
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, look at the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. Remember, it all starts at Breck. Now, your host, Lee Feinswag.
Music, start. Well, I got to tell you, the other day I was having a cup of coffee and I was perusing Facebook, and a picture popped up that made me go, And here it is. Because in that picture, as you'll see, the man in the middle is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Other guy, the older gentleman, is former LSU basketball coach Dale Brown. And the other guy is John Brady, former basketball coach at LSU as well. And I saw that picture and I called John Brady. I said, you got to come on Sports 225. Number one, because we haven't done this in so long.
That's right.
And number two, I was like, look at this. So you were
That's
out
great.
there for
Bo
Shaq.
Bonson was in that picture, by the way.
There's another. This is a different picture.
Oh, it's a different one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So you were out there for the unveiling of the Shaquille O'Neal statue.
Well, it was a coincidental situation. I'd gone out there a month ago. I booked a ticket to go see my daughter, who's a Laker girl, Brooke
Right.
Brady.
So there you go. Get that from the beginning right there. John's daughter, Brooke, is a Laker girl. Think about that. Okay.
Think about
She was
that.
a Golden Girl as well, wasn't
No,
she?
that was Brittany.
Oh, Brittany
Yeah,
was.
Brittany
oh.
was the golden girl, my oldest, and then Brooke went to University of Arizona, majored in dance, and she's out in L.A. making a living trying to dance and do that sort of thing. And she got a wild hair and said, I want to go try out, be a Laker girl. Over 300 try out, they cut it to 50, go through an interview, they cut it to 21, and she makes the 18 cut. So she's one of the 18 Laker girls, and I'd booked a ticket to go out there to this particular game because it fit my schedule. And I was on the phone with Jim Moore, and he said, well, Coach Brown's out there. I said, what's he out here for? I said, well, they're doing a statue for Shaq. So I called Coach Brown, and he was so kind. He said, John, they're doing a deal tomorrow. I want you to meet me at 3 o'clock outside gate 11, and you're going to go to the ceremony with me. I said, no, Coach. Hoping he'd say, yeah, go. But I said, no, Coach, that's your deal with Shaq. That's not me. He said, no, you're going. I get there, he's got me a VIP pass. We sit in this little ceremony, and we go to the reception, and Coach Brown couldn't have been more kind or gracious to me. And when Jerry West got up to talk about Shaq coming, he said, is Dale Brown here? And Coach stands up and they wave, and he says, he's the first guy he called to recruit Shaq to come from Orlando to L.A. He called Coach Brown. So I met Laker greats and sat there with Coach Brown, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. It's a relationship with Dale Brown I should have had 15 or 20 years ago.
Well, yeah. To say that they had no use for each other when John Brady replaced Dale Brown as the coach. Well, no, there was unnecessary friction there for a lot of reasons.
Absolutely.
No
question.
Because Dale had a 25-year run at LSU. When he retired, the coach who replaced him was John Brady, who was there 11 years?
11
years. And that included a trip to the round of 16, and then, of course, the Final Four run, which was 2006, which is hard to imagine. That was 11 years ago.
Time flies.
It does. So.
And I'm glad I'm where I am.
Which is out of coaching.
Sitting here with you.
So
That's
John,
right, out of coaching.
When John's tenure ended at LSU, you quickly jumped on the job at Arkansas State.
Right.
And in retrospect, I was so surprised. On one hand, it was like, all right, that's a good job. I wouldn't mind being in that conference where I got my buddies like Kermit Davis Jr. at the time. They were in the Sun Belt,
Right,
Middle Tennessee. Now they're in Conference USA. And,
Right.
And there was a comfort zone there, and it was a good job.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you had held out, because you never know.
You never know. I may, in retrospect now, I may have should have waited a year and done a little TV stuff or whatever that leads to. And it seems those guys that get let go on jobs, they go to TV for a year or two, and they turn out getting a better job than the one they just had. Mark Gottfried, for example. So maybe I should have done that. But, Lee, the way I look at it now is everything that I've done, the good things, the bad things, has brought me to the spot I am now, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I enjoy where I am. I like living in New Orleans. I like doing some TV stuff. I did 5 Southland Conference games with Lynn Rollins, who's great to work with, and do some radio and TV things in New Orleans and doing things like this with you, and I love it. I'm enjoying it. Stress-free life. I hadn't had that in 40 years.
Well, when you finally left Arkansas State, you retired technically, didn't you?
I told them that before I coached my last year there that this was it for me. I'm going to coach through this year, and regardless of what happens, I'm going back home.
Now, I joke with you when I've seen you since, but he's the new and improved, warm and fuzzy John Brady. What happened?
I don't know. You know, I used to wake up every morning chasing something. I don't know what I was chasing. I don't know what I was doing it for, but I was staying focused on winning basketball games. And it cost me some relationships along the way and maybe some friends and I should have done some things better. And I talk about this all the time. That I don't apologize for the way I coached the LSU team when I was here or what we tried to do or how we tried to play. I don't apologize. I do wish I would have approached the media a little bit different, be a little bit less edgy, more relaxed, took criticism better from the media when they wrote something about you. But hey, I was inexperienced. I didn't know how to handle that sort of thing. I came from Sanford. I had to call the media to come see me. Now the media was coming to see you, and I just didn't do good with that. My relationship with Coach Brown wasn't what it needed to be or should have been, and I should have done a better job with that. And he admits that he should have done a better job with me. But it's all got me to sitting here right now. I had a great weekend with Coach Brown, and he and I have had dinner together a couple of times. And you know, you media guys are funny, and I'm one of the media guys now. But the things that we went through together back then,
yeah,
even the difficult times, now when I come back to Baton Rouge, it's fun to sit around and talk about and laugh about it.
Well, I want to tell people about that first year because I was his LSU basketball beat writer for the paper. He's John Brady, the former Crowley, Samford, LSU, and Arkansas State basketball coach. I'm Lee Feinswag, still the current host of Sports 225.
Hi, I'm Joe Martin, president of ITI Technical College. You know, you're not a number here at ITI. You're known by name. The staff and the instructors work diligently for your success because your success is our success. ITI is family owned and part of this community. Our 10-acre campus has been here for over 40 years. Let us evaluate your credits to determine if they'll transfer here. ITI is accredited by the Accrediting Commission of Career Schools and Colleges. ITI Technical College. Begin your journey for a better life.
Back on Sports 225, how about this picture from John Brady's first year that he signed to me? He had more hair then, and we were both younger.
I had hair, and yours was darker.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, I looked like Borat back in the day, and I see myself now, and it's like, geez, what happened to me? I know. So, you know, it's Final Four week. I want to point out a couple things to you that are kind of interesting about Final Four week. Of the four coaches, the young guy is Frank Martin, who's 50. Mark Few is either 54 or 56. Roy at North Carolina is 66.
Yes.
And who am I missing there? I got Gonzaga, South Carolina,
Oregon, and Dana Altman.
And Dana Altman is 54, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've known all those guys for a long time. I knew Mark Few when he was assistant at Gonzaga. We played him when I was at Samford. And the common thread with all those guys, besides their age, is they're all about defending and rebounding. And some people mistake North Carolina not being a good defensive team because they give up a lot of points, but they play fast. The rest of those teams are more slower offensively, which keeps the score down, but they all four are very good defensive teams, and that's something I've always tried to do and be about, and it seems it's got them to where they are.
And you don't get to the Final Four unless you have two things. One, two really good players, one probable lottery pick. And in the case of your 2006 team, I mean, freshman Garrett Temple is now, you know,
he's only making $8 million a year.
Yeah, 3 years, $24 million with Sacramento.
It's America.
Yeah, it's great. But the point is that you got to have really good players, and the other is what you said: you got to play defense. So that brings me back to what I was saying before we went to the break. So John's first year, he inherited a thin cupboard, and then the joke was, remember Kermit telling you, because every time they had a staff meeting or a team meeting, somebody quit, Kermit saying, John, maybe we better not have any more meetings
meetings.
because everybody just walked off. So by the time the season started, he was holding it together with Scotch tape and glue and a bunch of JC transfers.
I was terrible.
That was arguably, talent-wise, the worst team that I can remember in a Power 5 conference. But I will tell you, and I've told you this before, I don't think I've ever enjoyed covering a team more than that team. Even though they went 2-14 in the league, but you know what? They played defense like their lives depended on it. Every single possession. They couldn't press now because they were too slow and they had no depth. So they couldn't have foul trouble. But man, in the half court, you guys got after it. And on offense, they ran 4 out, sometimes 5 out. Hard shot clock, took great shots, couldn't put the ball in the ocean from the edge of the pier.
That's right.
Right.
Couldn't score.
But played the game hard and smart, and they all hated you and banded together to play as best they could against you and try to win. How the hell But that was such a good team to watch.
Well, it was fun. Joe Dean told me, and and God bless Joe Dean because he changed my life hiring me here at LSU and gave me a chance to perform on a stage I'd never had an opportunity had I not had that relationship with Joe Dean Jr. But Joe Dean told me in his own way, he said, look, your team's not any good. You're not going to be any good. You're not going to win any games. Just do one thing. I said, what's that, Mr. Dean? He said, look good losing. And that's what we tried to do, look good losing. And that team did play hard. It wasn't Lester Earl, it was Lewis Earl was my starting center.
Yeah.
At 6'5". That's where we were.
One time, Lewis Earl's freshman.
And I love Lewis. He played hard, though.
He was a senior. Wasn't he like a fifth-year senior playing for you the one year? I don't know, one game you decided not to play him. And he's sitting on the bench. He's got his arms back like this, and you're down the other end, and his mother had to go to work.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
she goes walking past the bench, and she goes, Lou, what's the matter? You tired? You tired, Lou? That was her way of bump, because she was hitting in the game.
That was the coach is stupid is what she really meant to say.
That's her. Yeah. Lou, you tired?
No, you're not tired.
When it comes time for Final Four week, because you were there, and it's a select few. Just in the grand scheme of things, of 330 Division I teams, give or take, and the long history of the Final Four, there aren't that many coaches who have been to a Final Four.
Right.
Especially when you got guys like from Carolina and Duke who take up 1/4 of it every year.
Yeah, and they go back.
Yeah. So does this give you kind of like any kind of special feeling this week?
Well, what they started, I guess, 8 or 10 years ago, or maybe longer than that now. Years fly by now. Maybe 12 years ago, they started a Final Four coaches club. And they have a luncheon at the Final Four for all the coaches that have been in the Final Four, and they present jackets to the new coaches that come in. There'll be 3 new jackets this year. Roy Williams certainly won't have one because he's got 2 before this, 2 or 3. But it's kind of like the Masters, where they have a dinner, they present the Masters jacket, everybody wears their jackets to the luncheon. And that's a neat thing to keep us all kind of in touch with one another, and I like that. So that's one thing to look forward to at the final. They have special seating for us at the Final Four, take us in a special bus to the game and all that sort of thing. Nice entranceway, Final Four coaches. So that's something that I'll always appreciate my time at LSU, being able to do that. But I wouldn't have been able to do that had Joe Dean not hired me and I didn't have pretty good players. It's like you referred to earlier, Lee. You need good players to fill in, because sometimes the coaching's not going to be there. It doesn't take over, but good players take over a game, and you need those guys to make plays for you.
I got Collis Temple on line 3. Let me.
he was the best unpaid assistant coach I ever had.
Oh gosh, I got stories about him and you both. All right, when we get back, we got an interesting line of football coaching connections for John we'll talk about. He's John Brady. I'm Lee Feinswag. It's Sports 225.
Don't let the bed bugs bite you. We'll put them to sleep.
Bed bugs can be transported from most anywhere. Hotels, department stores, even a friend's house.
We've got the bead on bed bugs. Call the bug man today.
Call 923-BUGS.
All right, we're back on Sports 225, and as I alluded to, John has been at a multiple number of places and bumped into quite a few football coaches along the way. And I had forgotten about all the connections. So you were at Samford.
Terry Bowden was the head football coach. He left, went to Auburn. Then Chan Gailey came in between pro stops. Chan Gailey's a big Christian guy, and Samford fit his MO, and he came there as a head football coach, got to know him a little bit.
Later was the head coach of the Cowboys, or was he something at the Cowboys?
Offensive coordinator.
That's it, yeah.
And then he was at Buffalo as a head coach for
That's
a while.
it,
yeah. And I came here and had DiNardo here, and I saw Coach DiNardo a couple of weeks ago. He was in New Orleans with Mike Hollingsworth. And then Nick Saban obviously came in, and then Les Miles came in. And then when I left here and I went to Arkansas State, hung out with Gus Malzahn. He was at Arkansas State, and then Hugh Freeze was at Arkansas State. So I've been around some really talented coaches.
What did you ever glean from Saban? Because obviously, in the world of football, he's arguably the best or one of the best coaches who ever lived, and people have modeled so many things that he's done. Did you pick up anything from him at the time, or in retrospect?
Well, he was totally focused on what he wanted to do, knew what he wanted to do, extreme confidence in himself, extremely intelligent, and really had a great sense of humor when you got to know him. He really has a great sense of humor, because he and I would travel around and speak together. And he was good in that regard. But I just think he's so focused on what he wants to do. And he's got his own way of doing things, and that's the way it's going to be, and it's been successful for him, so it's reinforced what he believes. But at the same time, I refer to him being intelligent, that he has changed with the times. You know, he was against hurry-up offense until he found out he couldn't stop it. So then he hires Lane Kiffin, and then they had fast break football is what I call it. He ran some fast break football at Alabama with Kiffin there. So he's smart enough to stay fundamentally with what he wants to do, but at the same time change with the times, and I think that's what makes him successful.
I think as a coach you got to do that. I mean, like in your case, you're a man-to-man defense guy, motion offense, but you're always willing to adapt a little bit based on your personnel.
Well, once we got those strong post players that we had for a 5 or 6 year stretch, we went to more of a high-low post situation where we got out of the perimeter action and went more of an inside team, which kind of worked for us with Stromile and Jabari Smith and Brandon Bass, Glenn Davis, Tyrus Thomas. You know, you kind of throw it to those guys.
Yeah. Good coaching. Good coaching. All right, so I have my own set of things that drives me nuts, but I watch college basketball now, and when it gets down to the round of 16, I enjoy it, because obviously there's no bad teams left, and most of the kids know how to play, and there's a sense of purpose there, and the rebounding and defense that we talked about.
Right.
But for the other 320-something teams out there, oftentimes the game is intolerable to watch. I think it's just brutal for me sometimes.
Because?
But if you were, well, if you got me started, I would tell you, get rid of the three-point shot. Go back to playing basketball.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
I know it's not.
Yeah, okay.
But if you were the czar of basketball,
right,
and you could just wave the wand and they had to do whatever you wanted to do, what rules changes would you make, or what would you change?
Here's the one that I think has stopped the flow of offense a little bit. No 5-second call with the dribbler. It's like Curly Neal with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Right.
He just dribbles for 5 minutes all over the floor. And I think it has stopped the teaching of player movement, the teaching of ball movement, by letting a player dominate the ball. All they do now is stand out there and beat it on the turf, call somebody to come out and ball screen and try to manufacture a play off a ball screen. That's really 85% of offense now. If you had the 5-second call in, you've got 4 seconds to dribble it, then you pick it up and you've got to pass it and move. So I think it's hurt offensive flow a little bit. It's become a little bit too stagnant offensively, and that would be the rule I would inject back into the game.
That's interesting, because that's the first time I've ever heard that, but I like that. Is the game, to me, is also too physical. It's tight ends and linebackers playing basketball, especially with all these teams left. I mean, am I wrong?
Well, every year they start saying they're going to call chucking in the lane, you know, arm barring and post play, and they're going to clean it all up. But as the year goes on, I think all of that kind of subsides, because there are some physical players out there, and it's just the nature of the game. But they try to officiate it, they try to call it, say they're going to emphasize it, but they never seem to really stick with it. Yeah. Now, I do think the other night in the Kentucky game, they called a couple of nitpicky fouls early, and I think that's what Calipari was upset about, because his best players were on the bench the first 7 or 8 minutes because they called a couple of nitpicky fouls. But I want the best players to settle a game like that, and they should get away from that. It doesn't have any bearing on the play.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got to make a nitpicky foul right here and go to break. The last one, we only got a little bit of time left. It's John Brady.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, I do. It's always fun. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
See that dog lover? About to unleash the terror hound on these friendly, unsuspecting canines? Well, I'm the human dislike button, and I see it too. Easy there, Cujo. Taking part in a dog socialization program at a shelter or pet store can help nip this problem in the bud. And no matter how well socialized your pet is, cleaning up the little rays of sunshine they leave in their merry wake is your responsibility. To learn more about me, go to breck.org/HDB.
All right, we're coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225. Before I forget, go to sports225.com where you can see archive shows at Sports 225 TV on our YouTube channel and get the listings for Cox 4 and CST. Thanks to Corey and Nils for directing the show and taking care of us today, and to John Brady coming in from New Orleans and hanging out. I don't get to see this guy enough. We had a pretty fun time. Your first year, my last year as a beat writer was a good time.
Did I send you into retirement?
Pretty much. It just went over the edge. Couldn't take the newspaper business anymore. No, I had actually decided before that year, but nobody knew it. There have not, in the history of LSU basketball, been that many head coaches. I mean, Dale Brand was there 25 years.
Right.
You were there 11 years. There's been two since, Trent Johnson and Johnny Jones. And last week they hired Will Wade at VCU. He's 34 years old, won the press conference, a lot of energy, has had success as a head coach. My only argument, if you will, is I don't know if he can build and sustain, and I don't know if he can overcome the failure that he's about to encounter. I mean, maybe he won't. Maybe they'll come in and have a great year. But your thoughts about the hire?
Well, I have to take my hat off to Joe Oliva. He had a criteria of who he wanted, younger guy, energetic guy, dynamic personality. Will Wade's name surfaced early. Joe Oliva seemed to have targeted him and maybe had some other little bit of interest here and there, but I think that's what he wanted to do. He flew up there early, it seems, after he got through playing, or we didn't even saw a game of Will Wade. So he got his guy, and you have to congratulate him on that. Now, everybody, LSU, I know how LSU fans are. Everybody has an opinion of who he should have talked to, or maybe he should have hired, all that sort of thing, which means people are interested. Now what everybody ought to do is Joe Oliva's made his decision. Will Wade wants to be here. Had a great press conference from everything I've heard. Everybody needs to get behind him, support him, buy tickets, create an environment in there as you know it can be, as I know it can be, and let this guy do his thing and win a bunch of games and make a lot of money and stay here a long time. That's what I want.
And in your mind, the best part is you're on the outside looking in. You're never going to coach again, are you?
No.
I was going to say, not like your friend Richard Williams, who's gone back to multiple coaching gigs since he left Mississippi.
No, I'm not going to do that. I feel great where I am, doing what I'm doing. I like talking about it and getting up, and it doesn't go home with me. It used to go home with me in the car. Now I can go analyze it, talk about it.
You didn't get rid of it in the car. You still kept it going even after that.
Yeah, it was 24/7, but I enjoy where I am. And congratulations for you doing this 22 years of 225.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable.
Can you imagine? When he first came on, it was in the early years of the old Sports Monday. Thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, I mean that.
All right. John Brady, this has been very enjoyable for me. I hope you enjoyed watching, and this has been Sports 225.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry. See the mowers marching, prizes fill the sky. This Spanish Town Mardi Gras, may it never die. Poetry was everywhere, sweet music filled the air, and just then she glanced my way next to Baton Rouge Bay.